Hi, and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle, and today we have a special guest, Amanda Ewers, with us. I'm really excited to catch up and see what she's up to. Before we do that, I asked her before we started, and I'm going to set an intention super quick. Well, I'm not going to set an intention super quick, actually. I'm going to drop in and be mindful with my intention. Isn't that the point? Okay, my intention. I'm closing my eyes. I'm getting grounded. I am listening. And my intention today is to connect and learn new things about Amanda and her purpose, because I believe that's where we're going today. And also to remind myself that intentions are ridiculously powerful. And sometimes I think because I use them on the regular, I forget that magical piece of it. And so I want to remind myself that intentions have a lot of magic and power in our lives to shift things in amazing directions. That's what I got.
I love it.
Welcome, Amanda.
Hi.
I'm
Hi.
so glad you're here.
Same. Same. I love being in your space. There's just something the way that we connect. And my daughter even made a mention of that because she overheard us on a conversation and she's like, Mom, like I just you guys seem like you really know each other.
Isn't it cool? Because
Yeah.
I mean, we do know each other and we're getting to know each other even more, but we haven't known each other that long.
No. It's
That's amazing.
yeah. I love that when other people can pick up on your energy. It's just in a positive way, I love that.
Yeah, I see that as like a spiritual high five. Like, just like universe is saying, just so you know, this is good. You think it feels good, and you might be questioning that sometimes because of past stuff, but we just want you to know it's really good.
It feels much better than the spiritual two by four, that's for sure.
Way better, way better. I love the spiritual high fives, the spiritual two by fours. I'm grateful for them. However, usually pretty painful in a challenge way, not in like a, well, I guess sometimes it's a physical way, but most of the time it's more just like, hey, we've been giving you signs and clues everywhere, putting like people, earth angels in your path to help you on your way, and you're not listening. Lean into these people we've been putting in front of you, or you've been finding, and depending on
And
where
then
you're
when you
at.
have the awareness, you're like, oh, what have I been doing?
How did I miss this? It was so loud. And then it got really loud where you just can't help but see
Oh,
it, you know?
how many times do we just we resist the things that we're supposed to step into?
Girl, this sounds like the perfect segue into what you're doing now, which you might not love me for. But you just told me the other day when we were talking that you had been getting nudges from people. I assumed, or at least it was implied that they were trusted advisors, and you were just like, nah, not really for me.
Mhm.
But what I heard in all that was not really for you yet, and now is now, and that's different. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh, you just said it perfectly. Because, there there has to be space for healing.
Mm,
And I remember telling you that I don't think I found my voice truly until, or the power in my voice until I started speaking, until I accepted the challenge of just going for it. And see, I turned 40 and I said, okay, I'm going to do the things that I've never done before. I'm just going to challenge myself to do things I haven't done before, not knowing that for the last, the previous 7 years, I had already been taking small strides to get to that point.
mm,
Um, my my experience after having my kids, I had postpartum depression, and part of my therapy was to get into fitness. I was a teacher, what I fitness is not really something that teachers are really good at. I'll just say that. but I found that I love the way that I felt through that. And with being a teacher, I found that I could blend the two and become a fitness instructor.
Mm.
And then, having that self-care piece of not, you know, killing myself in the gym, but actually finding a way to move my body in a meaningful way. So, like athletic style yoga. Um, and then I started meeting people. Other people were coming in, and then I was teaching them. And I learned how to utilize my space and how to elevate my voice and all of these little aspects. And then when I got on stage to speak for the first time, it wasn't the first time. I had been doing this
Yeah.
just on a yoga mat for how many years, preparing myself. And it wasn't a spiritual two by four in the sense that it was painful, but it was just this like huge, do you realize, right?
Like
Like
an
here's
aha
this,
moment.
yeah, like
Yeah.
to never have done this, to accept the challenge, to step into it fully and authentically and just go. It was amazing. It was amazing. And now I'm looking at, I go back and I'm going, okay, where were all the signs? Where were all the signs? Like all this time, there had to be something I was doing all this time to bring me to this point. And I realized that, yes, I had all these advisors that were kind of saying, hey, go here. But I hadn't healed from that yet.
Mm.
And
Almost
so,
like they were foreshadowing, like
ah,
planting the seeds so you could chew on it for a little bit. And, had it not been said, would you have done the same kind of healing? Would you have looked at things in the same way? Would it have evolved and unfolded in that way? I don't know, maybe, but I
mhm,
do find it fascinating when, like, those people that say the things that give us some sort of a pin or a twinge or a, sometimes it's prickly, sometimes it's like this warmth, but either way, it makes you notice and look.
mhm,
And I think that that shifts us in a different way. I'm so grateful for those conversations we have with people because I think they assist us whether we realize it or not in the moment.
mhm.
And I do think it's fun to go back and look and kind of like see like, oh, that makes sense now. And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes for me the things that I'm making sense of are things that I've been hanging on for a while that when they didn't make sense, they just bugged me. you know?
Yeah. And I meet a lot of people and in different spaces. And, you know, it's a lot of times it feels like you're just hitting your head up against the wall, like you're wanting this to work out. And it seems like every direction you go, it's like you're trying to force something that's not working. And then you're going, I've been trying to build this business or I've been trying to do this. And it's like, well, that's not where you were supposed to go.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not that it was a lot of times we think, oh my gosh, I've wasted this time.
Mm.
But have we? Because I don't think for the last 2 years since I met with those advisors that I've wasted time. No, I've learned so much and I've allowed myself to heal from whatever it was still causing that block for me to be able to talk about it. And now I can talk about it without crying.
Mm.
And I couldn't do that before. And it's not like I went through this whole period of you know healing the postpartum itself, but there were other elements within that needed to be healed. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the process, for the journey, and we want to rush things and we can't. And then when they finally come to fruition, it's so much more meaningful and purposeful. And I think that's this where how I feel where I'm at now is that the last 10 years has prepared me to step in fully right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think you said so many great things in that. I think the process of healing can get really uncomfortable and there's a lot of layers to it. And so many of us just want to snap our fingers and be done, right? Whether that's we want to get on to our big goals and dreams, or whether that's we really want to avoid the process of the pain that's bound to come through as we work through the layers of the healing, or who knows? I think that's also layered. But to be able to show yourself some grace within that pause and observe and be in the most compassionate state you can be in, and know that you have people that can help guide you and keep you there. Not that you live in compassion all the time when you're healing, because I feel like that's really hard to do. But I feel like it's in our compassionate moments when we have that surrender, almost, that is when the profound healing comes in, and we get to look from that state of love and compassion, rather than beating ourselves up or wishing things were different, or like there's an acceptance there that happens as we evolve through the healing. And I don't know, I really liked the way you said that. So in the process of doing that work for yourself and reflecting and being present in the now and being willing to look forward now, and this is a weird way to say it, but like now that you're in the forward, right now that you're in that space where you have come into like this new thing for you, but it really feels like a piece of you, like a purposeful piece within you that is like revealed itself and is ready to shine bright and show the world. What is that looking like for you now? Because are you in the beginning stages of this, or is this further in? Then tell me a little bit more about the postpartum, how you're helping people within that, because I think it's such an important thing.
Well, and it's really interesting because as I've been looking back, there have been nuggets along the way, and I just haven't acknowledged them for what they were.
Hmm.
I've been working with women for almost 9 years now in group style settings, one-on-one coaching, and I've always attracted this one avatar, is kind of what we call it in the coaching world, but um it's always been women with children.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to work with youth, troubled youth. Then I'm a teacher. I got into, working with teens. I've been working with Girl Scouts. So like I've already been in that space for, almost 8 years, 9 years, something like that. Between 7 and 9 years is kind of, what I've been developing. And, they talk about, finding that one specific group of people that you want to work with. And I got to thinking, I said, there's so much from my own healing journey that I've discovered, as far as, we talk about healing from childhood trauma. We talk about, our teens and what they're experiencing today, and how do we communicate with them, and how do we, how are we better parents and things like that. And, how do we keep our marriage together, and how do we navigate social media, right? Like there's all these evolving things. And I think that this is just evolved into being now, okay, this was the original intention, but I had to learn all of these pieces along the way so that I could best serve that intention.
Hmm.
And so the postpartum piece, that is a part of me. That is something that I have experienced. That is my life experience. I can speak to it from that, but I can also speak to it from a knowledge base to see how that time of life affects preteen.
Hmm.
Because now my children are old enough now for me to see the impact that my personal development has made on them. And so now I have a responsibility to share all of the things that I've learned along the way, so that these women that are bringing children into the world don't have to navigate so difficult, right? So their navigation is not so challenging, that they can at least get some bits and pieces of maybe what I've learned along the way to help them navigate it a little easier. And that's kind of that's my intention, is to help one woman. It's always been that intention from the beginning. How do I help one woman to feel as good as I feel on my best days, and to get through on the hard days? That's that's what we do when we're building a tribe, when we're trying to raise children. It does take a tribe. And where do we find these women? The ones with experience.
Mhm.
And so I'm just bringing my experience to the table. So this has been in development. My son just turned 11.
That's
So,
amazing.
you know,
Yeah, that's
this has
it.
been developing for a long time. So, um, from a business perspective, you could say that this is a new launch. Home and healing is just now becoming its own individual piece. Um, I've been, like I said, I've been working with women. We had Women of Armor, that's still a standing community. But Home and Healing is now a focused community for postpartum wellness. So it's a suite of services provided to not just postpartum women, but it's pre and postnatal services, mental, emotional, and physical. And I'm also providing education to men, um, their partners and families, so that they can understand and know how they can support the women in their life through the postpartum stage, which is that first year after having a child. And the focus is postpartum depression, but not just the depression piece. It's postpartum wellness as a whole.
That's awesome. Postpartum support, right? Postpartum wellness, all of that. I love like when you were speaking about it, all I could think as you were talking, as you were describing it, I just thought, how beautiful is it to know you're not alone and to have a guide or mentor or coach that can support you along the way, who's lived, I can't say they've lived your exact experience, right? Because that's not how it works. But someone who's gone through it, who can understand on a new and deeper and different level than someone who hasn't. And I think it's like, along my journey, the healing that I've done took me for flippin' ever, like just so long. And it was supposed to, and I believe some of the resistance and blocks that I had them because I was supposed to be here today doing what I do to be a catalyst for people so that they don't have to stay stuck for so long, that they get to choose a different way with, again, not alone, with support, with a whole community of people who can guide, support, walk alongside them, behind them, in front of them, right? And it's like whether they're trailblazing to lead the way, whether they're side by side leaning shoulder to shoulder, or whether they're behind you giving the little nudge that you need to, there's just so many different ways we can look at it. But I just think, having people who can understand in a different way because they've been through it, and not just been through it. Here's the key piece. They're also living a good life. They're living a life that they are able to be enjoy. I'm not saying every day is happy, every day is easy. I'm not saying there aren't challenges, but I am saying, like, you know how to navigate the challenges, and you can come out of a funk faster than you used to be able to. And sometimes I'm in the funk with my clients. I don't know how it works for you, but it's like sometimes it's like, yeah, we're all in this together. Let's come together as a community and lift each other up and figure out how to get out of the doldrums, because this stinks, but I think we're all supposed to be here right now. So, but let's navigate our way out. And I have some ideas within that. And we get to hear everybody's ideas within that. And there's power in those numbers of heartfelt people coming together and holding space for each other and sharing their wisdom and their experiences. It's a huge asset to allow yourself to lean into and trust a community. And I say it that way because for me, that was the hardest thing. I would go into communities or classes and be a fly on the wall and very hesitant and apprehensive because it wasn't easy for me to trust communities. I found them, I don't know, a lot of different things. I found them a lot of different things. It was hard for me to open up and just lean in. So what you just described is amazing, amazing resource and support for, and especially at that time of life too, like I don't know that I would have known where to turn.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I wasn't in this world when I had my boys. My boys are in their 20s. I've only been doing this for 13. You know what I mean? So it's like I was not this same person with this level of experience when I had my boys. And I fumbled my way through and, I did the best I could. And I'm grateful that I have them. When I first started this journey, I had a lot of moments where I wish I would have known this then. And it was
Mm.
hard for me not to beat myself up.
And I've seen so much by working in the public school system and having conversation with parents and um with my own story, and I see so many times that parents are lost in their own stuff, right? And then we bring kids into the world and they carry that with them. They are born into the environment that they're born into. And I'm sure you could understand when people are doing the inner child work and we're going through childhood trauma, people are able to remember, they have memories of things that happened, but they can't recall.
Mm.
They happened in utero. People have memories that are formed in utero. And so the environment that they're born into is so important. And if mom is not taking care of herself, if her partner and her family doesn't know how to support her, now we're bringing children into that environment that people don't know how to help themselves. How do they help the child? And then we have adult children that are trying to figure out their trauma, and history just continues to repeat itself. So our job here is to do our healing, to do our inner work, to figure it out, and help our children to navigate along the way. And so for me to figure it out was important because I had seen the impact that my own parents had on my younger siblings, because their lived experience when I was a child was much different than when my siblings were growing up, because they're
Mm.
5, 6 years younger. My parents were divorced. They were living different lifestyles. And my siblings had a very difficult life. My youngest sister passed away when she was 26. Um, she was a runaway when she was 12. And, you know, a lot of very difficult things happened to her, but she didn't have the support at home to be able to navigate it. And so a lot of that really poured into me to say, okay, how do I not repeat this generational thing? We call them generational curses or generational baggage, whatever you want to call it. But our responsibility is to rewrite it by doing the work that we need to do. And that's why it's important to have our spiritual guides. It's important to have these mentors and people in our lives that have gone through experiences that can help us to, you know, hey, how about we not just continue to make U-turns all day long? Why don't we try this detour and see if this actually will work? Sometimes the detour is a scenic route and sometimes the detour is a little bumpy, but we still get to the right destination instead of if we're doing a U-turn all day long. We're just going to keep going back. And that's not how we want to live our lives. And that's not how we want the next generation to live. And so this truly is bringing that tribe mentality back through lived experience. and through knowledge. Because I'm not just going out there and just sharing, my own stuff, right? Like I'm backing it up with science and research and to show you like we have a problem. 1 in 7 women suffer from postpartum depression. And that's just what we know about. That's just reported. And 1 in 10 men suffer from postpartum depression. And we don't talk about that. Surely 20 years ago, we weren't talking about it. Just last year, the FDA approved medication for postpartum depression. My son just turned 11. So there wasn't even anything out there when I was going through it. And so we've come a long way, but we haven't come far enough. And we need people like myself to step out and say, hey, this is real. This is something that we're dealing with, and I want to help. And that's what I'm doing. I'm helping where I see a need.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, this is something I've been pondering lately. It's deeply personal to you as well, for a lot of different layers. And I find the practitioners who it's deeply personal and are doing the work, and there's layers to their story, it changes the level of support they can provide because of their lived experience, because of their passion about it, because of, I guess I'm coming into that, like, it's your purpose, right? It's like all of these things are part of your life, and they're part of your purpose. They're why you're so passionate about what you're doing. They're why you're called to this. And I think without that spark, without that passion, without that pain, to be frank, it's harder for us to hold space in a way that is authentic. And I'm not trying to say if you don't have a lived experience that it's not a thing, but I'm just saying the people that I've been meeting lately are all very much authentic in their story, have healed so that they can talk about it from a peace point instead of a pain point, and from wisdom. And they do the due diligence of bringing in the knowledge as well through whatever their trainings are, right? Whether it doesn't matter what your training is, it matters to you and it matters to your clients. But outside of that, like it's that what matters is it's there. You're not just coming in and making stuff up along the way. You have lived experience, you have training, you have and I know this about you, we haven't really talked about it, but I do know that you're a person who, like, you're working within your scope. If somebody needs something outside of what you have capacity or training for, you will refer out. And I think that's such an important piece. And I haven't met very many, but occasionally, once in a while, somebody will drop in and you'll be like, oh, you're regurgitating things you've read, but you've never actually learned or lived or and I guess my point in all of that is I think discernment is so important as we're seeking people to support us. And, like, you might be the perfect person for one person and you might not be the perfect person for another, and both of those answers are right. It's like, I think sometimes people, and I think the other piece of that, and I don't even know why this is coming in, but maybe somebody needs to hear it out there. But I think I sometimes have clients who are like, oh, well, I went to go see back when I was doing Thai and Reiki, I went to go see a different practitioner. I just, I needed to get in and you didn't have any openings. And they came in like feeling all guilt and shamey. And I'm like, I think you should see more than one practitioner. I think it's really important. I think your body gets used to the same thing. You get comfortable, the healing changes, like, go try something new. Always do a check-in and reevaluation and use your discernment to make sure it's still working for you. Like, I think we get hung up on I'm supposed to stay here because this has been a really good fit for a really long time, but we forget to, like, pause and reevaluate. And I don't know, that's maybe a weird thing to say as a practitioner who has clients, but I really think, like, to empower and encourage people to lean into the people that are working for them, and also reevaluate on a regular basis to make sure that we're showing up in a way. I think, with the postpartum and you being able to work with the whole family is amazing. And for some families, it might be like incredibly powerful and amplify the healing on a level that you can work with every single person in that family. And then there might be other families where it's like, you're absolutely not a good fit for one of them, but you're a great fit for the other. And it all works as long as the people who are choosing to engage to get the support are mindful about who they're engaging with and who they're choosing to bring in.
Right. And I'm very aware that there's going to be groups of people that what I'm providing right now is not a great fit, right? I'm not a postpartum doula that's going to I'm
Yeah.
not a night nurse, right? Like I'm not just going to be there and so that you can sleep and like I'm not going to be a live-in nanny. Like that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make sure that you know your husband or your partner knows that like, hey, if she says this or this, that like you need to do this or this. And because a lot of times, even my husband and he and I were not seeing eye to eye this morning, but occasionally if I call his mom, she could say the same thing and he gets it. Or my kid can say something and he gets it because we get used to hearing, just like
Mhm.
you said, you know, we kind of we become white noise in a way. And it's if you hear it from someone else, it's like, okay, I get it. And it's my wife has been saying that, but I didn't understand what she was asking for. Right.
Yeah.
And we don't always ask for what we need. We think that men are going to read our minds. They're not mind readers. They just aren't. And so I'm taking it upon myself to go out there and talk to men and say, "Hey, look, I'm a woman. I've got older kiddos. I've been married for almost 20 years. I can tell you these are the things that I expected of my husband and he didn't know what I was trying to communicate. And you might be dealing with this at home, you know? And these are some things that you should be looking out for depression wise, not just for her, but for yourself. And what happens is, fortunately, we do have where a lot of people are able to take 12 weeks off for work and they can be there for their partners. But let's face it, we're not there for everybody. And there's a lot of people that they might get 2 weeks off of work to stay home. And so what happens after the 2 weeks? Because the first 2 weeks are baby blues. We're just adjusting, right? You've gone through a traumatic experience to birth a baby. So let's just call that what it is. But beyond that, who's coming by? Hubby's at work, you're by yourself, the baby's not a newborn now, right? Now we're navigating a whole different thing. And usually for the 4 to 5 week mark is where we really start kind of realizing that things are different. And then we go for our 6 week checkup. So we don't really know that we should be saying something yet. And he's not there to vouch for us or to say what he's seeing. Right. And so there's so much education that needs to happen.
Well, and I love that you're about the whole picture of the education. It's not just educating mom. You think of the entire family unit. And
Mhm.
I think that's so important. I think so many times when we're thinking about the process of healing, whatever that looks like, whatever your focus or your scope is, I think we get a little we can get hyper focused on just the one person, but I mean, definitely when we start healing I mean, that ripples out into the world and that's great. And also it changes your close knit world. I mean, because when you're doing the work, it is a shift.
Mhm.
And sometimes the people around you have a hard time deciphering what that looks like, and the communication gets messy, a lot gets messy. So to have like that support within the whole unit is amazing. And I think the other thing I want to circle back to about like using your discernment, adding the layer of sometimes we resist the help because it scares us. So when I say use your discernment and make sure it's a good fit for you, that's 100% true, but also make sure that that answer that you come to is truthful. And sometimes we need to just dance a little. Like they might need to lean into Amanda, right? And dance a little with you to see, rather than just assuming or deciding without, I'm saying like put in a little extra effort to see,
Mhm.
because I've learned over time that I tend to resist new people sometimes. Uh, I tend to go in too hesitant with blocks and old wounds, right? I mean, that was how I used to show up. And then I missed some, or it took me longer to lean into some people that have had a really profound impact and positive, crazy healing effect on my life. And again, I'm not like in regret, but I did learn that I can be an observer and acknowledge when this might be from a pain point, or this might not be from my highest self, or this might not be from my most wise, my wise inner voice, you know. And I think it's tricky to navigate when we're in, particularly, you know, something like postpartum depression. We're not even thinking clearly at that point. We are barely functioning. So, you know, what does that look like to get the support? And how do you I mean, like, as I was saying that, I'm like, how do you navigate that? Like, how do you find people? Um, because if they're in that state already, I would imagine it would be really a beautiful thing if they can find you before they get there, you know, to do
Right.
the thing.
And that's the beautiful part about how this is designed. I really want women to reach out during that prenatal stage so that
Mhm.
we can be prepared for that postpartum wellness, so that we can step into it together and we can navigate through that. And if after, 6, 10 weeks, it's like, I'm feeling pretty good and we just kind of do a monthly check in, great. I want to serve you from the prenatal through that first year after, right? Let's celebrate baby's first birthday. That's usually very stressful for mothers, by the way, that first birthday. So, let's get through that. And then you really should have all the tools that you need to just flourish and your family flourish, because now you've been able to navigate a whole year with support. And I think going back to something that you said, we we've kind of been taught that we can't use the different resources that are available to us, that it challenges your loyalty and this and that. But I think we actually get the most benefit when we can piece together the things that we need. Let's take a multivitamin, for example. Like I was reading the other day, you know, women over 40, it's not necessary that you take a multivitamin, right? Because there's actually individual things that we specifically need at that age. And so, sure, you could take a multivitamin, but if you want that specific care, right? You want to make sure that you're targeting the things that you really need. Maybe you talk to your doctor about, should I just take a higher dose of this, and this instead of this multivitamin, right? Some people have a hard time taking multivitamins because it upsets their stomach. And so they just don't take a vitamin at all. But what if they just need vitamin D? We all need vitamin D, by the way. If you live in Minnesota, you need vitamin D. Like, but talk to your doctor. They can check that stuff out. And, it's if you customize the care that you need, whether that's booking, once a month with Michelle and, twice a week with so and so, whatever that looks like for you. I mean, even my massage therapy that I go to, I see the different ones for different things I need. If I need an athletic massage, I'm going to go see this one. This one does cupping, the others don't. And so I'm going to customize the care that I need. And it's not that I'm challenging my loyalty to them. It's just they have what I need in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the women that need that support, that really feel that they need some extra communication tools, and maybe they've had an upbringing that they're not, they want to make sure that they don't repeat, you know or maybe they just don't have the support. A lot of people move to a new area and they don't know anyone. And my daughter was 3 months old when we moved. I didn't know anybody. And so I had to Fortunately, I wasn't going through postpartum with her, but I did have someone I could reach out to with my son, and I'm fortunate to be able to have done that. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't, and I wanna be that voice for them. I wanna to be able to step in and just help them when they feel like, "I'm just not sure." Then let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let me give you the questions that you should ask your doctor. Let me be an advocate for you. I'm not replacing healthcare. I'm not replacing, therapy or anything like that. I'm just supporting that so that you have that extra layer of protection, if you will, that of guidance, of support, whatever it is that you need so that that next generation is fully supported as well. It's that, again, bringing it back to tribe mentality, and we've lost that along the way. And one last thing I want to say is women still have shame around feeling the way that they do through postpartum
Mm.
because it's not natural. It's not what society tells us that we're supposed to just be able to do all of these things. And we're supposed to be these perfect moms and perfect wives and, you know, love this baby completely and fully and be able to do all this stuff, right? And keep it all together. Except not everyone can if they're dealing with all of this other stuff inside. And a lot of times we don't have someone that can help us identify it. And then the shame that comes along with it, it's what will people think of me if I tell them I feel this way? That should never be the conversation. The conversation should be, I don't feel like myself. I love my baby, but I don't feel like myself. It doesn't change how you love your baby. It's just how you show up in that. And I want to help. I want to help.
So how do people find you? If someone's listening to this and they're like, I need to connect with Amanda, how do they find you?
My website is homeandhealing.com. And there you can book a call with me. You can check out my podcast. You can send me an email. Everything is there on my website for you to be able to reach out and us get connected. I'm on all the socials. I'm on the TikTok, I call it, because let's let's age myself here. I'm on the TikTok. I'm on YouTube podcast, Home and Healing, the podcast, and Facebook, Instagram, all of those things. I am there.
Are those social media channels under your name or under Home and Healing?
ALK0211 is my tag.
ALK0211. Okay. Good to know. Yay. Well, that feels like a wrap for today. Anything else you want to share?
Reach out.
Yeah.
If you or someone is expecting, I would love to just have a conversation and see if what I provide could be of service. And obviously, if there's a different direction, we can talk about that too. So thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. This was great. Brought me back. I mean, my boys are in their 20s, so it was fun to go back and think about those days and the healing journey. I do that on the regular, but it's fun to do it with different goggles on, to just see it's all different, but it's amazing. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. That's it for today. Bye. Be you every day. Don't forget to like and subscribe on social media, Hypothetically Intentional. And again, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube are our three things. Bye.